quarterback talk with the Niners. What were your thoughts about it as you're out for a week?
Feels like a big, giant distraction.
A distraction?
Yeah, from the Nick Bosa holdout.
Oh, are you worried about Nick Bosa now?
Well, I mean, the quarterback thing is hilarious to me. I mean, it's just, I don't even. I'm watching from afar. I'm not at practice. I'm scouring the internet, and I'm trying to, like every fan, I'm trying to figure out what's what. And I'm seeing the beat writers for the Niners. We are making sweeping condemnations as hosts and as beat writers and as content creators on missed passes, on touchdown throws. And yet Jimmy Garoppolo's throwing like 59 picks in like a 3-day span. And the Raiders beat writers are like, nah, he's just getting himself ready. It's just what? Niner fans are insatiable.
Raider fans are wild too, though. I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo, what did he go? 1 for 7, 3 near picks. I'm actually going out with my boy Q down in Vegas today to get the gist about Jimmy Garoppolo. Joint practices start Thursday, 8:40 a.m. 8:40 a.m.
Sunday they play, 1
o'clock?
Yeah,
1 o'clock. 8:40 a.m. Thursday, Friday. And then we get a preseason game Sunday at 1 o'clock. And that preseason game will more than likely not have Nick Bosa involved in it. Doesn't play in preseason games.
I never played in one.
Which I'm okay with. But
no,
number 97 has been at practice. Now, when the Niners opened up camp, they opened up training camp a couple weeks ago. And John Lynch, he spoke about Nick Bosa, and he talked about some of the contracts they've gotten done. He used a word that I've not heard him use when it comes to these long-term contract extensions to try to prevent a training camp holdout. Here's what Lynch said about Nick Bosa and a potential contract at the start of training camp.
Seen various players, have not seen Nick. And, I would expect he's not here to start off. We're working. We're having really good communication with Brian Ayrault. He's got good, competent people we have an immense amount of respect for, working for him. And we're working diligently to try to come to an agreement. I think the challenge is you're talking about a real special player. You're talking about one of the better players in the league. You could argue that could simplify things, but I think at times it's just finding that sweet spot and where the right spot. And we're committed to working towards that. Just spoke with Brian this morning. We're also committed. You guys might have heard Mike Brown today. We're going to keep things private. I always appreciated that as a player. I feel like there's some sanctity to those things. You don't want everything being aired out. And so we've agreed with Brian and Nick to keep our dealings private. So I think that's the extent of what I'll say. And when there's updates, we'll give them to you.
When there's updates, we'll give them to you. Now, I remember something about being this situation being complicated. Lynch had used the word complicated later on when describing Nick Bosa, and I wonder what's complicated. Is it the years? Is it the guarantee? Is there some backloaded money? Is there some deferment? What is complicated about the situation? But when is it appropriate to worry about Nick Bosa not being here? Now, I want to play this for you real quick because this one, I know you're worried already. This one may have you even more worried, Chasker. Here's Eric Crocker. Does a great job. He's been out here in practice. Here's what he had to say about the injury concerns with Nick Bosa if he does continue to hold out.
I'm not worried about the deal getting done, and I don't doubt at all he'll be on the field week 1. But the opening that window for that soft tissue injury and something that might linger throughout the year, I'm more concerned about that. So you need practice. You don't even necessarily need preseason, but even doing drills, right, when they do the bag drills, the get-off drills in practice, and you're competing against somebody else trying to get out faster than him, that's starting to push your body. That's ramping your body up. And then the practices, that helps as well. That all helps you get ready for week 1, even if you don't even participate in the preseason game.
So that was Eric Crocker last Friday, right? Was that Friday or Thursday? Whatever it was, late last week. Eric Crocker does a good job covering the 49ers with Brian Peacock, Lockdown 49ers podcast. So that's what he said his concern was, not practicing because, soft tissue muscles there, they'll start to linger and linger. I think of groin injuries. I think of hamstrings.
Which is what he had last year.
Which is what he had, and then lingered and lingered. The groin injury, which compromised him against Kansas City, and he missed the Atlanta Falcons game. He wasn't right for a minute. So
I still didn't think he was right all year. And to his normal self. I thought he had a really good year. I mean, you're defensive player of the year. But he clearly was completely out of gas come playoff time.
He was.
I mean, I don't think that's even deniable.
I thought he had a big finish to the year,
He
though.
did, though. No,
He
actually
had a big
Lubman
finish.
pull out the game logs. He had more fourth quarter sacks in the final
Right.
month than you actually remember.
Well,
most
because
people remember.
we're talking about Defensive Player of the Year. If Bosa wants to get Defensive Player of the Year, these are the games you got to shine out against. Miami, Tampa Bay, the Washington Commanders, the Seahawks on Thursday Night Football. You ball out in those games, you ensure yourself a DPOI award. And that's what he did. Now, did he leave everything on the table? I think one thing the Niners need to start invested in, and they did it with D Ford, and that's the opposite edge rusher. If you don't have an opposite edge rusher, and we're going to see about Drake Jackson. I'm hearing more things about Taco Charlton than I am Drake Jackson. We'll see. Cleveland Farrell, of course, under Chris Kosaric. That other edge rusher, I think the Niners have, I don't want to say done a poor job in trying to develop, but I feel like they could have done better at developing. Instead of maybe pouring all your resources inside to Eric Armstead and Javon Kinlaw and Javon Hargrave, maybe that edge rusher should have got more love. You know what I mean?
No, it's a great point. You referenced DeMarcus Ware earlier in the show. One of the great acquisitions by John Elway when he was the Denver Broncos GM was pairing DeMarcus Ware up with a young Von Miller. We talked so much about that last Peyton Manning championship.
That defense was sick.
It was because of DeMarcus Ware and Von Miller. There were other players. I'm not trying to diminish those guys, but like those two were a lethal combination. And DeMarcus Ware was not in his prime. But when you have a young thoroughbred like Von Miller opposite him, now you're cooking. Now you got a little something. I find this Bosa contract thing very interesting. On one level, I feel like I'm going to contradict myself here. On one level, the Niners have earned the benefit of the doubt because of all the contracts that they've signed, all the money they've put together. On the other level, I think it's fair to go, dude, you took this guy number 2 overall, and he's been the gold standard at the position for 5 years. You pray to God a number 2 overall pick is what Nick Bosa has produced. Are you concerned about some injuries? Absolutely, you should be. He's had some soft tissue. He had the ACL. He was hurt in college. He was hurt in high school. That's totally fair. But are we really arguing about a mill here, a mill there? Or is it about guarantees?
I don't think it's about money. I think Parag Marante, Jed York. I don't know what it is. I don't even want to speculate.
Because can we acknowledge
I don't know what it is.
The Bosas are about business.
Well, I was looking at Joey Bosa. The guy we should be looking at is Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald held out in 2017 and 18.
Okay.
And Aaron Donald held out in 2017, and he missed the first game of the season, which the Rams,
I don't even remember that.
blew out the Colts, the LA College. I remember Hard Knocks. Hard Knocks, remember?
Right.
But
I didn't remember till you said it.
Yeah. But he held out in 2017, didn't really get paid. Then he came back in 2018 and held out all off season. And then going into September, he got that big fat deal, which netted him $87 million guaranteed. You also got to remember Chris Jones is holding out for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Another great defensive player.
So maybe Nick and his agent are saying, hold on, let's see what Kansas City does with Chris Jones. Because they're going to pay him a lot of money as one of the more impactful interior defensive linemen in all of pro football. Chris Jones is a monster, an all-pro.
Oh, he's great.
Maybe Nick Bosa's just waiting on him to get his deal to say, okay, we didn't make sure that we make $1 more more to Chris Jones.
It's a great,
and it's more so for the owner, for the agent. The agent loves seeing a flashy
But if I'm running
headline.
the Niners, you can't tell me that, hey, it is about championships and it's go time right now with this big sense of urgency, and then have the best player or second best player, if you got McCaffrey as number 1, not there. And I don't even need him to practice. This isn't about me saying, he's got to be there to practice. But, there is a sense of everyone's on board except my top dog. Yeah. And I just worry because we talk so much about quarterbacks stumbling out of the gates. Bro, if Bosa isn't, ready to go, and I know we all expect him to be, one game here and there does matter to the Niners.
Well, it does in terms of home field advantage. You're getting that bye week. But when is it appropriate to worry about Nick Bosa not being here?
Well, I've got a list of 49er holdouts. You're looking at one of the oldest holdouts, because I'm going to go through some of the old ones, in 30 years. This is one of the longest holdouts in a long time.